Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
We are back again, friends. Hello, thank you, and good morning. Still, we're recording on a Sunday.
On a Monday.
Oh my God, what's going on? This is episode 73 of the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. It's a somber occasion today. This is going to be my last episode until October with my awesome co-host. That would be Katie Q. Katie, good Monday to you.
Hi, I'm just leaving for a little while so then you can miss me for a little bit. I don't want you to get sick of me and then kick me off.
She will return, but her explicit objections to the fact that we're going to start talking about Star Trek Enterprise is why she's running away. No, I'm just kidding.
That's 100% legit. I'm not going anywhere near that show.
Wouldn't touch it with a 10-meter cattle prod. Anyway, as usual, I am Charlie Carden, your host, the Trek Lord of West Michigan, captain of the USS Grand Petoskey, a chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club. Again, coming to you with some serious ass Star Trek, and we got 2 episodes of Strange New Worlds to talk about, and then we're going to finish Deep Space Nine with some of the finest early episodes of that series, in my opinion, including 2, 3 that are incredibly pivotal to the series in general, and to Star Trek in general. So I can't wait to get to that. But first and foremost, we do have, again, 2 episodes of what I'm considering to be maybe the best, in my opinion, the best of what we've had of New Trek. I mean, I know that, Katie, you're very heavy into Discovery. You love it, but this show has absolutely captured my heart and mind. And it's not just because of the star and the fact that I'm working my ass off to look like him, fitness-wise. But let's kick it off talking about episode 3, Ghost of Valyria. Katie, go for it.
Yeah, the USS Enterprise encounters a contagion that ravages the ship. One by one, the entire crew is incapacitated except for number 1, Unachin Riley. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
You got it. No, you nailed it.
Yeah! Who now must confront a secret she's been hiding as she races to find a cure. Loved it 100%. And as you said, I am a Discovery baby. I love that show. But this show, I was very excited. Like, it was one of the first times I was like, all right, just watched episode 3. And then I was like, okay, we're doing 2 episodes. That means I get to watch episode 4. Wait, where's episode 4? Wait, that means I have to wait for it to come out. No.
I know. Contrary to the Netflix model where they just kind of drop everything on you. But, the thing is, I mean, I love this episode too, without a doubt. The thing that I really love about this series is 2 things. A, it's a spinoff that's not a spin-off because it's also a sequel to an episode an episode
very
that
Star Trek or very Star Trek fashion. It's very like timey-wimey, widdly-wobbly to steal some Doctor Who references.
Exactly correct. But they absolutely do everything right. And one of the things that both in this episode and then the episode that we're going to talk about to follow is they take a series of not only Star Trek tropes, but also sci-fi tropes in general, and they find a way to make them great and new again. Like the race against the clock to solve the virus that the crew is infected and one person's trying to figure it out. That's been done in TOS, TNG, DS9.
There's always something.
But yeah, it's a sci-fi / just overall drama trope, but they nail it. They take it in a way in this episode that reveals something about a heritage character that you never would have suspected that she is human / humanoid, but she has this deep dark secret that she's genetically engineered, just like Dr. Bashir had the deep dark secret that he was genetically engineered. And the fact that La'an is genetically engineered, even though it's more commonly known, and because it's an ancestor, it's really not that big of a deal. It's not like she's genetically enhanced. So this is great. Again, it tackles that prejudice, and it's funny because we decided to slam through all the Jurassic Park / Jurassic World movies because that movie's coming up. And it's the same thing. It's the argument, natural law and blah, 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 messing with the this thing and that thing, whatever it is. But confronting, obviously one of the last real prejudices that is held by not only Earthers, but by the Federation in general. I
Right.
think this episode really nails it. That's a significant portion, Spock and Pike being stranded on the surface, and like the colonists are actually the wisp of light. Again, it's been done before, but it's cool and it's mysterious. But we're not like, oh, this is now going to play out over the next 17 episodes, like the way that other series in this more modern era, Discovery, to its pluses and minuses. Maybe they do it right, maybe they do it wrong. I'm not sure, but
and the great thing is they do, like, the things I enjoy about Discovery is really not so much the plot, but the way that they grow with the characters, and each character has a very strong story to tell. And I love it because I'm getting both the Monster of the Week, which I love, but also the stories with the characters are still continuing. So you still get to see that growth happening from one episode to the next, but it's not something where they're like, we're going to do this huge overarching plot that you have to pay attention to because otherwise you're going to miss it because someone made some offhand comment 3 episodes ago that's now going to be pivotal to what's going on in the season finale.
Right, exactly. Yeah, who wants to deal with all of that? It's too hard in this, ADD world, of which of course I'm a part of, that we feel it's like, the jingling keys, there's a blue car. You know what I mean? Well, it's just tough to keep up.
And speaking with that, like the way that they had like kind of the neurodivergency representation with Dr. Bashir, it's funny that you mentioned that episode because I was thinking about that episode too, and they were really showing a lot of those characters that were quote unquote enhanced as being on the spectrum and being socially awkward and
right.
Which are things that I, as someone who's on the spectrum and as someone who's neurodivergent, I was like, hey, these are kind of some harmful stereotypes. And it was really great to see them readdress that kind of trope without having it be something where they're like, oh, well, they're just quirky and weird and they don't understand society because they're super smart and eclectic.
Right.
So I really enjoyed that part too.
Right. Yeah. Too much of a stereotype. And again, that's not really what Star Trek is all about, which is what I think makes it very special. It always confounds me when you have, MAGA hat types who say they're into Star Trek, but then hate all the diversity. It's like, oh, when did Star Trek get woke? There was some article from Fox News or one of those places going around like, oh, Star Trek goes into the woke frontier. I'm like, have you watched the show since 1966?
Right. And that I don't understand it either because I'm like, this has been going on for a while, folks. You can try to say that they're now cramming it down your throat. I'm like, no, they're just telling more diverse stories. Like,
right, exactly.
You're actually taking time to stick with the characters, and that's what's making it interesting.
Exactly correct. So I absolutely adore it. And then shifting into the next episode, we have I'm sorry, any other thoughts about
this? Nope, that was it.
Okay.
Except for like Una. Una's my new favorite. I love Una.
She is fantastic. Yeah, I admired her bravery. And again, it was the same thing. It's like, she says, well, I'm ready to quit. And Chris is like, you're not going to quit because you're too valuable and I love you and blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, they just really, you're really seeing that cohesiveness. And again, it's kind of nice that we have a crew that's been together for a while, though not everybody. One thing about this episode and the next episode, and then certainly the ones that follow, the ranking discrepancies, the rank discrepancies between the characters drive me nuts. Spock wears the braid of a lieutenant commander. He's referred to as Lieutenant Spock. You have Nurse Chapel, who's wearing the braid of a full commander, but in the original series, she was a nurse and a lieutenant. So I'm hoping they did the same kind of thing in Voyager in the first 10 or 15 episodes. Tuvok wore the wrong rank. Paris wore the wrong rank. I'm hoping they maybe course correct in some fashion because it's driving me nuts. It's just driving me nuts because I'm a costumer and I love uniforms. So I just, it's a minor thing that no one else ever would care about, but it's my show, so I'm whining about it in my own way. Oh, my God. So anyway, next episode, Memento Mori. While on a routine supply mission to a colony planet, typical setup for a Star Trek episode, the Enterprise comes under attack from an unknown malevolent force. Pike brings all his heart and experience to bear in facing the crisis, but his security officer warns him that the enemy cannot be dealt with by conventional means. Great. Again, very trope heavy. We're stuck in a nebula. The ship is crippled. That came from the episode DS9 episode Starship Down and early in season 4. It was a watershed moment for Worf because it was his first time in command of the Defiant in that episode. But they had to find a workaround and do unconventional things. And then you had Uhura and Hemmer stuck in the cargo bay from the TNG episode Disaster, where it was Geordi and Dr. Crusher. Same thing. Oh, we have to push the button to blow these containers out into space, otherwise we'll suffocate. They're taking these tropes and they're still flipping them
Mm-hmm.
to a place where it feels awesome and original. So it's an homage, but it also seemingly has nothing to do with kind of what it's taken from. So, man, I loved it. I love it how we're getting full development of everybody slowly but surely, and you're getting there's a great needs of the many, or not even the needs of the one that you see number one put out, because she's gravely wounded. She ends
Mm-hmm.
up in sick bay. All systems are offline, so they're having to do very triage rudimentary medicine where they've got to get her on an IV drip for blood, but then the patient in the bed next to her is more critical, so she's like, give the blood to that patient. Oh, you'll die, but I'm just she's taking care of her crew. She's the XO, so it's great. But in the end, the doctor hooks up the IV to himself, and then she's getting blood, and I just love everything. What can I they're hitting it all. They're hitting every little piece of it. And again, you're gonna, after 50 years, it's kind of like that adage after 30 years that you hear on South Park, for example. Well, the Simpsons did it. The Simpsons did it. Well, Star Trek is up against its own,
Right.
saying, well, this series did it. And I think it takes a special kind of storytelling to be able to look at that and say, they did do it. It's not better, it's not worse, but Strange New Worlds is doing it this way, and it's excellent.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that's how I'm feeling. Oh, big time.
And it was one thing where I was really excited to see it from your perspective, because I do not know about the Gorn.
Right.
I had no idea who they were, what was going on.
The Gorn they've had 2 appearances.
Yeah.
The first of which was in the classic arena, and Kirk fights the Gorn, and it launched 1,000 memes. And the second appearance was in an episode of Enterprise, so you'll never see it.
Right.
But it was in a weird episode that was told in the Mirror Universe. It was a 2-parter and told in the Mirror Universe with the Enterprise crew, and the Gorn found their way into that episode. But because it was produced in 2005, the Gorn was now CGI, so it's basically a Velociraptor in clothes, as opposed,
and that's kind of what I was getting from it. But one thing that I really liked is that they made them very, very scary.
Yes,
like, this felt like a very real threat, and I was like, this is the way that I feel like they wanted the Klingons to feel like, or they want this was a very predatory, aggressive race.
Big time.
Like the Dominion, I feel like that's what they were going for with that, and they just never were able to get the teeth behind it.
The Jem'Hadar,
and the Jem'Hadar, but just the way that they had to go through it, and the way that Lon was talking about them, and what you saw with them, I was like, this is awesome, and I really hope that they become kind of, not necessarily there has to be a full story, but that they become a reoccurring villain, just like there are reoccurring threats with the Klingons and threats with the Romulans and that sort of thing throughout the other series when they're kind of doing these Monster of the Week things, because I loved them, and I'm like, I want 100% more of these guys, because it's like full on Predator mode, and I'm here for it.
What is awesome about the 2 that you mentioned is the Klingons. I didn't love how they were done in Discovery. I would really like to not see them again.
Oh, as a lover of Discovery, I disavow the entire first season. I'm like, just don't even bother.
Exactly. And the Romulans, we can't see them yet because they aren't actually introduced / reintroduced until first season of TOS, which is 6 or 7 years past it. So we can't see them. We got a taste of them in Enterprise, but it was all, they never met. It was, here's the Romulans, it's funny, it employs a great piece of this that Peter and I will talk about in the next episode, because there's an early season 2 episode of Enterprise where the Romulans appear in space, and there's a little bit of cat and mouse going on, but it's never revealed who they are. And I guess Enterprise did the same thing with the Ferengi, which, whatever. Oh, yeah. But that was not the greatest. But in this episode, I did very much love that it was very cat and mouse. You never saw a face. And it maintained that mystery for, I think, people like you who have no familiarity. But again, you've got the Gorn from the shadows, in Lon's flashback, thinking about, the cargo ship or the colony ship that she was on that was, brutalized, and she was one of the only survivors of, everything is prey, everything is food. They're gonna, it's like a cat toying with a mouse, that's essentially.
It felt very alien. It felt very like Predator. It was really, really, really well done, where it was very much like Boogeyman in the dark. And I was thinking kind of, obviously with the way that Lower Decks did it with the Packlids, it was done much more of a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, but they still
Right.
were able to make the Packlids, who had like one episode in TOS, or not in
Right.
TOS, TNG,
Right.
become a still like valid villain,
Right.
kind of race. And I feel like they're doing the same thing with Gorn, where it was just kind of this kind of a one-off spoofy, goofy thing that
Right.
they tried to make threatening,
Right.
but it came off so much better this time because
Oh
they
my
were able to
God.
kind of sit down and actually think and build what they wanted to do with them.
Right. And the best horror films, and I know it's not your genre, the best horror films will deliver more of the sizzle than the steak.
Oh
It'll
yeah,
be it'll
absolutely.
be this outlier of terror that makes you fear finally actually seeing something, as opposed to being like, here's the gore, and they're having a firefight, or they're doing this thing or that thing. So yeah, oh god, they did it absolutely spectacular. So well, good. That wraps 2 more episodes of Strange New Worlds. I am just bummed that we can't talk about more of the season
I
together.
know that is going to be one thing that I was
I
thinking about.
know.
I'm like, because I'm going to definitely continue watching it, and I'm going to be definitely
Please.
bummed that I can't. I mean, I'll probably just end up messaging you and be like, "Oh my gosh, did you see what just happened? I'm so excited."
Yes, please do. Oh my god. Well, moving into segment 2. Oh my goodness, this is this was mind dropping for me. The episodes we're dealing with, the final 7 episodes of season 2 of Star Trek Deep Space
Mhm.
Nine. These aired early in 1994, and as I'd mentioned in the previous episode, this was the end of my senior year in high school. So I was a full on Trek nerd. Girls wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole, but I always had my Star Trek and my
You
Marvel
always
Comics.
did. Yep.
I always did. Work for me. But yeah, this launches us into some of the finest work that they did, and I think was the beginning of a corner turn. I mean, there were some getting into season 3, which you and I aren't going to talk about until it's funny. I was doing the math on DS9 because this season ends on a cliffhanger. I'm like, when are Katie and I picking up this cliffhanger? Oh, it's next February. We're going to talk about this.
Sorry.
So yeah. No. That's just the natural progression of the show. That's because we're bi-weekly and we're trying to go.
Right.
We're trying to go series by series, same season, so that it's just to have some kind of symmetry to it. So, but anyway, let's get it started. Katie, you take the first 2 because it's a 2-parter. That one's all
right.
you. Go for it.
Well, we have the Marquis Part
Maquis.
1, or Maquis Part 1 is by David Livingston, story by Rick Bergman, Michael Piller, Jerry Taylor, and James Crocker, teleplay by James Crocker. It aired April 24th, 1994. And with the Federation colonists reject the treaty with the Cardassia and take matters into their own hands, forming a terrorist group called the Marquis.
And the Maquis, just to give you a little historical reference, and there's also, it's a huge Voyager tie-in, obviously, but we talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
But the Maquis was the French resistance in World War II.
Oh, there we go. See that?
There's the reference. So anyway, please continue.
Yeah, so this builds up kind of the start of this, and again, it's a 2-part section, which was kind of fun to have right in the middle end of the season, because usually you get that where it kicks off the season or it ends the season. But this one, they were like, no, we're just going to stick like in the last 5 episodes. So then you had, the Maquis Part 2, which was by Corey Allen, or directed by Corey Allen, with story actually by, looks like a lot of the same folks: Rick Berman, Michael Piller, Jerry Taylor, and Iris Stephen Bear. And then the teleplay was by Iris Stephen Bear. I think that Charlie just likes having me read this stuff out so I can fumble over all of these.
No, it's a learning experience. And I will plug in there before you read the description that Rick Berman was the king of Star Trek at the time. He ran the franchise. Michael Piller, he and Michael Piller created, the late Michael Piller created Deep Space Nine together. Jerry Taylor co-created Voyager, and Ira Stephen Bear was the main showrunner of Deep Space Nine. So this 2-parter was
that's
written.
Why this was so strong.
It's written by the creme de la creme of the golden age of Star Trek creators. Was this 2-parter?
Yeah. So yeah, you had the Part 1, and then Part 2 is that those colonists, they reject Cardassia, the treaty with Cardassia, and take matters into their own hands by planning to destroy weapon depots on the Cardassia Brima colony. So it was really great. You had a lot of back and forths with these colonists, and a lot of, we're not going to trust the Cardassians. they're not being trustworthy. They're not holding up their end of the deal. Anytime you're dealing with Cardassians, you can expect them to not hold up their end of the deal. I mean, and let's be real, Cardassians haven't exactly shown that that's not true at this point.
Exactly.
So,
Oh my! So many strong performances and character relationships. First of all, you meet Sisko's oldest friend, Cal Hudson, who's a fellow Starfleet commander. He's the Cardassian liaison to the demilitarized zone, but behind the scenes, he runs the Maquis. And that's not revealed until the the cliffhanger piece of the end of the first part. It's and then that's their interactions. I think particularly getting into the second episode are the strongest because you're watching two best friends who they don't want to let it go. Like he's like, Ben, you can help us, let us use your station to smuggle things, and he's like, I can't do that, I can't. He says, I'm we're fighting for our lives, this treaty is wrong, we're fighting against tyranny. And Sisko's like, I'm holding the line or whatever it is. until he and Kira have that speech interaction where she said exactly what you said. She said the Cardassians cannot be trusted to hold up their end of the bargain of this. She says they're your enemy, not your own colonists. And if that's what Starfleet believes, they're more naive than I already think they are. He slams his hand against the table to open the door to give her the get the fuck out symbol. He's so angry because you can tell that he wants to agree. That in his heart, and you'll see this play out in seasons 4 and 5 with Michael Eddington, who becomes the next Cal Hudson, an officer who betrays him, that he believes in Starfleet very strongly, but his sympathies reach out, but ultimately his call to duty is stronger than his desire to see these colonists say, well, why can't they just leave it? It's just a piece of land. Why not leave? And that's what freedom fighting is all about. It's not. It's like, no, you don't just, some distant government doesn't tell you, well, you're not living here anymore. Goodbye. And then if the other side of the treaty are, colonists that will violently displace you, and the Cardassians are so shifty in so many different ways, they don't care. But yes, it's the secret war. It's it's Cobra versus GI Joe. It's all this. So much going on in this episode.
It had a lot of with Sisko and his former friend. It had a lot of kind of like almost Professor Xavier Magneto vibes,
right?
And they're like having these huge philosophical discussions about like duty and doing what is right, even if it's going against the law or going against what you're supposed to be standing for, and how do like the ethics and morality and context matters. And I think that was a lot of what like Kira was trying to get at too. Is like, yes, okay, sure, we signed this treaty. But if they're not planning on doing it, like context matters for this treaty.
Right,
and,
exactly.
And it's one of those things that I really enjoy because we do get to watch this continual struggle with Sisko as he's continually broached with this and hitting a wall with Starfleet as he's like, trying to convince them of that same thing where he's learning this the hard way right now so that down the road we watch him fight and try to argue with Starfleet going, no, guys, you don't understand.
Right. Oh my gosh. This was pivotal. Obviously, this gave birth to the main plot line of Star Trek Voyager. One of the other big wigs in the Maquis is Chakotay, a Starfleet officer who abandoned his commission to defend his home colony after, and it was actually fleshed out in one of the 2 canonical novels that Star Trek has ever had, which is called Pathways. I was looking on the shelf behind me like it's there. I've read it several times, but there are 2 novels. Oh yeah, it is called Pathways. One novel is called Mosaic. It gives Catherine Janeway's backstory, which again, it's canonical because it's written by Jerry Taylor. And the Pathways novel is also written by Jerry Taylor and canonical, and it's the story of everybody else. And so you get to learn that Chakotay left Starfleet when his home colony and his father were all slaughtered by the Cardassians in one of these border disputes. So he joined up, and that's what, Janeway's job as a captain / someone focused on intelligence was to bring them in. And so they chased him to Tuvok, who was her security guy, integrated himself into the Maquis cell that Chakotay ran. And then both ships got swept across the galaxy and had to join forces, blah, blah, blah. And then that was the whole series. So this was a great setup. The Maquis, they kind of died on the vine after this. There was a great episode of TNG, the very tail end, where the character of Ro Laren, Ensign Ro, Lieutenant Ro at that time, Michelle Forbes, who was also the superb Admiral Kane in Battlestar Galactica, also abandoned Starfleet for the Maquis because she was Bajoran, and she felt, just like Cal Hudson, just like Chakotay, felt very strongly that no, what they're doing here is wrong. My conviction outweighs some stupid treaty that someone signed for what they felt was the greater good, but for the people here who are dying and being killed by the Cardassians who aren't respecting the treaty, we have to fight for our lives. So, one of the finest. This is one that I'll watch this. This is a two-parter. I'll just I want to watch some of the best of DS9, maybe once a year, twice a year, every other year, and I'll tune in and I'll just watch this one and move on because it's so damn good. So anyway, such good stuff. Moving on, episode 22 of the series is The Wire. No, it's not HBO. Directed by Kim Freeman, written by Robert Hewitt Wolf. Again, a bigwig of the DS9 writing staff throughout the series. Came out in May of 1994. In order to save Garrick's life, Bashir must unravel some of the secrets of the Cardassians' past. And this was the first real dive into who Garrick is. Now, we've seen him in a handful of episodes, starting with really the second episode of the series, as a plain, simple Taylor Garrick, but clearly packed with mystique, with intrigue. And so what we find out in here is that, yes, he was a member of, and we're introduced to the Obsidian Order, which is the Cardassian secret police, the secret branch of the government that does all the dirtiest of the dirty deeds. And Garrick was a big piece of it, though we don't learn just how big until a little bit more time goes by. But what happened was when he, made his final, he made a violation that he got himself thrown out. He was stuck with this implant and exiled to Terok Nor, and the implant was I'm misremembering. He was given the implant, as all agents do, to help him avoid interrogation by switching it on, and then you get shiny happy feelings, and you kind of tune it gets them high, so maybe that's why he always acts so weird. I have no idea. He's all do shiny happy people holding hands, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I don't know.
Well, it sounded like the way that they're describing it is that it takes pain sensors and turns it into pleasure instead. So while they would be torching you, you'd actually be getting serotonin releases versus pain release. So
they're pulling out my fingernails. Dee, dee, dee.
Right, you're like, this is fine. This is fine. It's like that meme where everything's burning around you, and you're like, this is fine.
You just named the episode. This is fine. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. But what basically happened is, Garrick's life living on the station sucks so much. He just turns the thing on and just leaves it. Well, eventually it starts to burn out. It's destroying his physiology. So Bashir has to find a way to remove it, replicate it, and Garrick, lashes out against him. And, they obviously, while he's going through withdrawals after he removes the device, so Bashir has to then venture to Cardassia, where we meet the even more enigmatic Inabran Tain. And I will not talk too much about what the connection between he and Garrick but Tain is able to help him, and ultimately, in typical sitcom fashion, at the end of it, he's fine. But we've learned so much, and it opens the door to so much more. And I think
so much and so little at the same time in true Garrick fashion.
I think this is the episode where Garrick says, believe everything, and he says, even the lies, especially the lies. Yes. Totally.
Well, and excellent. I don't know if it was this episode or if it was the one that we watched earlier where he, Bashir asked him if he was a traitor. How could he be an exile and a spy? And he goes, well, why not both? And Bashir just laughed at him. And I'm like, he literally just told you the thing. He literally just told you. Literally. Literally. And that's the thing I love about Garrick, though, is that he is, I could have an entire spinoff series with just Garrick. He's wonderful. One of my favorites by far. The guy who plays him is wonderful. And
Andy Robinson. Oh my God, yes. Oh, and absolutely.
I remember the first time I was watching through the season and this episode popped up. I absolutely loved it just because, again, I love Garrick and I wanted to know more immediately because there's so many everything he says is a puzzle. And so you just have to try to figure it out. And it's one of the great things. And I just felt like a lot of times I was like, Bashir, shut up and just listen to him instead of trying to take that face value. He's not telling the truth. That there's a double-edged meaning there.
Right. Take your notes and later compare your notes and get
Yes,
yourself a
exactly.
get yourself a vision board.
I'm like,
Garrick.
aren't you supposed to be a super genius? You should be able to figure this stuff out.
Oh my God, Garrick Vision Board. Now the name of the episode.
Yes, Gary Vision Board.
Oh my gosh. Oh, all right. So the next one is you. So go for it.
Okay, that is Crossover by David Livingston. Story by Peter Allen Fields. Teleplay by Peter Allen Fields and Michael Piller. Aired on May 15th of 1994. Kira and Bashir accidentally cross into the Mirror universe, where a Klingon Cardassian alliance rules the Terrans and are slaves on the station. A century before, James T. Kirk had made a similar crossover affecting humans and galactic history.
Oh my God! This was one that set in motion so much that followed. It's just it was so great. But yeah, no, it was incredible. So yeah, you get this simple Kira and Bashir they're headed back through the wormhole, and Bashir's kind of sort of hitting on her, and she's really kind of not having it. And then oops, space anomaly, and they somebody flips a switch or they go through a something or other, and they unfortunately crossover universes, and they pop over and there's a couple of Klingon ships and they're saying, intended, why we didn't know you were leaving the station. They bring them back to the station. The first person to greet them is Garrick, but he's in a Cardassian military uniform. Everything's dark and scary.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you're getting, there had been countless non-canonical mirrors. So we probably count them. There have been a myriad, a number of non-canonical mirror universe stories. There was in the first DC Comics Star Trek series that came out in the 80s. They did one there that was just, they picked up where the old one left off, and it was very bland and generic, but so was that entire series. They did a novel based around TNG. And they kind of took it as, well, Starfleet's still around. And they never considered that. What if it was the other way around? What if Spock came along, or what if the goateed bad Spock followed through with what he said at the end of the original TOS episode? Is that one you've seen?
Oh no, but I know the.
No. So what happened here is that Mirror Spock, unlike in the non-canonical stuff, took it to heart and said, I'm going to change everything. We're going to become peaceful. And then someone came along and, we were watching the Jurassic Park movie, like the Velociraptor, who when you show weakness, they just tear your throat out. And that's what happened. There have been continuations of that again, are non-canonical, but based on this, where the Terran Empire isn't all the way gone, but it's very tiny, and that's where the Mirror Picard is that he's still on an Enterprise and he's trying to fight his way out and blah blah blah. But regardless of all that, you get to see just a scenery chewing appearance of Kira as her alternate universe where she's the boss, but she's also, well, you see it, she's also a sex fiend, which you see in this one and in her next appearance and her subsequent ones. And she's just like, oh, so does that mean that does that mean that our Kira is just totally different than that, or or deep down does she really want to dress up in sexy outfits and do this kind of stuff? I have no idea. But that part of it doesn't really matter. We get the Mirror Cisco, who's kind of a cad and a scumbag, who has change of heart at the end. You get a great interaction with the Mirror O'Brien, who is a very beaten down, smiley, which is what the Mirror Cisco calls him. How he decides to rise up at the end, because I've been a slave all my life, but I want something better.
This was a rough season for O'Brien.
Yeah,
God, a lot.
it's not over yet, because it's coming up that it's like, oh my God, he's the Geordie of this series. It's like,
yeah, he really is.
You know what? Maybe that's an engineer thing, because it kind of happened to Scott. It happened to Scotty more than once in TOS. You know what I mean? So being an engineer is the worst job to have on a starship, because you're always going to be part of the kidnap/torture menagerie that goes on in that series. But I love this. So they go in there and they start a revolution. Mm-hmm. It's awesome, because that's kind of Kira's stock and trade. That's what she does. Is she's a revolution starter. So she crushed it. I loved it. What did you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This was really great. I really love that they gave Kira, the actor who plays Kira, they gave her a little bit more to work with this time. So, she got to play this, mirror version of herself, which was she was very narcissistic, very full of herself. So, she takes a fascination with our Kira just because she's like, hey, it's like having a pet of me, which, because she has this own sick fascination, which she's just totally enamored with herself.
Right.
And so it was just really, really great. And you got to see a lot of range from a lot of the characters, because they don't normally play those kind of roles, which was really, really fun.
Right, right, absolutely correct. So, oh man, oh man. So, yeah, I loved it, and again, it sets the tone for several mirror episodes, universes to follow.
Mhm.
We get the mirror universe back in the first season of Discovery, which I'm thankful we agree sucks, and we're not crazy about it. So we just kind of ignore that
Yep.
and pretend that Discovery begins with season two.
Yeah.
That's good. That was good. You know what? Yeah, that's a Code 47 proclamation. Start Discovery with season two.
Yes. And
It might not make a lot of sense, but there's a recap. There's always a recap,
there's always a
and, th-
recap, and that's fine. Yeah.
and that is speaking of great recaps. And again, that there's a potential that you'll join us over on Holocron to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi in a couple of weeks. But at the beginning, I assume you've watched so far.
I actually have not.
Oh, okay. Well, I will tell
I
you
don't
something.
say anything yet.
I will tell you something very non-spoilery. The first 5 minutes is a recap of the prequels, which pretty much negates the need to ever watch the prequels again.
Oh, cool. Love that.
It gives you all this great information that gets rid of those terrible. So again, great season one Discovery recap. Don't have to watch
Mhm.
Discovery season one again. There, I have solved your. If you have a problem with Discovery, I just solved it for you. There you go. Oh my goodness. Okay, episode 24 is The Collaborator, directed by Cliff Bole, story by Gary Holland. Never hear his name again. Teleplay by Gary Holland, Ira Stephen Bear, and Robert Hewitt Wolf. So maybe that's kind of what saves it. Aired in May of 1994. Bajoran secretary named Kubis, who aided the Cardassian occupational forces, wants to return home from exile. Vedic Win engages in a power play against Vedic Bareil to become Kai. I don't really care for this summary. I probably should have rewritten it in some fashion. Yeah, we're back into a little bit more of the Bajoran politics intrigue, because this really it was just a few episodes back that Bareil and Kira became a thing. So you see them kind of fully engaged in their relationship, blah blah blah. But yeah, it's coming to this Kubis, who was high on the list of Bajoran collaborators that if he ever surfaced again, he would be exiled for good, or he would be prosecuted. Well, he comes onto the station. He's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to slip back into Bajor, and it's going to be no big deal or whatever." But he gets kidnapped, and then in turn for some leniency, he rats out the fact of what he believes that Vedic Bareil, or rather, I'm trying to remember correctly, someone in the Vedic Assembly was responsible for a massacre in the Kendra Valley during the occupation. Somebody ratted them out. There's another collaborator that has not been exposed, but they don't know who it is. So Vedic Win, or who we all love to hate. Then says to Kira, "Well, my child, you're here to help me, and this thing and that thing." And she's like, "Fuck you, lady!" But still, she's like, "No, if there's a collaborator to be sussed out about this thing, if there's some evidence, I want to find it."
I mean, Kira's got a Kira. Let's be real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Kira's got it. That might even be an even better. Kira's got a Kira. All right, hold on, Kira.
I mean, and yes, you're very right. Like, you gotta hate her, and you love to hate her. Like, it's one of those things where I struggle because I'm like, I absolutely loathe her. Just like the Cardassian Gul Dukat.
Oh God,
I hate him. I hate both of them, and I just
which is so wonderful for the way the series ends with those two characters together.
And that's the thing is, in like, okay, like I guess the whole idea is that I'm supposed to hate them. So you're doing a great job, because I just absolutely loathe them.
You got it, gold star.
Yes. But part of me is also like, did I have to hate them so much? Did you have to make them this? Just
yeah.
But
really,
yeah,
it's almost too much. Oh my god.
I did really enjoy how the politics played out in this one, and it definitely felt it was very good, and also felt very defeating, because in this one, like, the good guys did not win. You find out at the end that Bareil did not do what people were charging him with, but he did try to cover it up for someone else. And it was just a really great way to kind of show how good doesn't always overcome evil. And again, it is setting up for future conflicts, to be taking place. And, it just shows, again, that continual, like, messy struggle of, like, what happens in a post-war society.
Right, exactly. Yeah, how much burying do we do? Really, what it was is Bareil had covered up the fact that Kaiopaka, who people believe is dead, but she's stranded on a planet in the Gamma Quadrant in the season 1 episode where they land on a planet where people can't die, but once you do die, you can't leave the planet again or you'll be dead. She stays there to make peace. But what really happened is Kaiopaka, who is the most revered religious figure in the, she was the hero of the Bajoran resistance. She was the one who she was faced with this impossible challenge. The Cardassians had said, if someone doesn't tell us where the base is of this particular group of rebels, we're going to annihilate this entire valley of 1,200 people, which really doesn't sound like a lot, but I guess it's a lot. And she said, okay, their base is there. Well, one of the members of that resistance cell was her son. And so she said, I'm going to give up my son's life for 1,200 people. It was very much a Spock needs of the many kind of moment that she did. But again, even Bareil realized that people were never going to be able to accept that this hero of the Bajoran resistance would compromise the 30-something lives. It would trade 30 lives for 1,200 lives.
Right, yeah.
People really couldn't deal with the fact, even though what she did, I don't know that there aren't many people that would make that same choice. The mathematics of it. Yeah. I mean, because somebody was going to die anyway, and we were being slaughtered anyhow. But why not try to save as many lives as you could, which is what she did. But Bareil took that bullet. He sacrificed his political career, and then let someone who is truly awful win the race and become the top dog, so that he could protect the legacy of this dead leader. So, like you said, time and again, is it something that happens in real politics? Absolutely. I mean, will we ever know about all those things? No. I mean, it's the Kennedy assassination. Who really did it? Who's covering up for who and what and where? Who knows? Who's ever going to know? Anyway, getting back into talking about the trials of being a Starfleet engineer. Yes. That would be episode 25, penultimate episode of the season, Tribunal, directed by Avery Brooks. So this was the first time I think a cast member directed an episode, though it would not be the last. Written by Bill Dial, kind of a no one to the series. Sorry, Bill. Came out in June of 1994. O'Brien is declared guilty of an unspecified crime and later tried, air quotes, in a tribunal held on Cardassia Prime. Wow, the Cardassian justice system. So when someone is snatched for a crime on Cardassia, there is a phony baloney show trial, and the guilt, the verdict. Now this was actually described to us in the Maquis episode. We didn't even really talk about the Cisco and Gul Dukat thing that ran throughout that episode, but we learned a lot about kind of Cardassian politics and stuff at that time. Is that with the Cardassian justice system, when someone is snagged for a crime, there is no guilty until proven innocent. You are simply guilty. There's a show trial because the people demand it. They love seeing the justice process trotted out. So they have a lawyer who stands up there and says, well, this thing, that thing, whatever, but the state, I believe in the power of the state. The state knows what's going on. Okay, so, and then the person is already sentenced to death.
Right. The lawyer is just there basically to get the person to try to confess on the stand.
Right,
and
exactly.
Get them to acknowledge their guilt, so then they don't have any risk of, possibly trying an innocent person. There's no question of guilt at that point, and then they can be like, look at how good the state is. We have a guilty person and we have done justice to the people.
I have a potential revision for the name of the episode, but I don't want to do it because it's so corny. Keeping Up with the Cardassians, because it's reality TV.
You have to at that point.
Okay, but it's so corny.
We live for that. We live for that. Come on.
Okay, Cardassians. Oh my goodness. But yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. It's super phony baloney. So anyway, what's going on is that, just for a quick framework, O'Brien and Keiko are going on a little holiday, just the two of them. And their runabout gets stopped in the middle of wherever. And they say, yeah, we've got proof that you're smuggling weapons, so you're coming with us, yoink. And they just grab him. And they get off. So what happens is, as O'Brien is leaving the station, he bumps into, basically an old Starfleet buddy who's retired. He's like, Raymond Boone, dude, I'm glad to see you. He said, we were on Setlik 3 together, which was really detailed, as that was one of the last engagements of that Cardassian War, which was probably 10 years before this. That was the real root of how much O'Brien despises Cardassians. And what this Raymond Boone guy, what we find out in the end of it is that he's really a Cardassian spy. He's not the real Raymond Boone. And he recorded O'Brien saying a bunch of stuff so he could duplicate his voice to get into the security locker to steal a bunch of photon torpedo warheads and frame O'Brien for it. And that's basically what happened. So that's kind of that's the big reveal at the end. But yeah, the keeping up with the Cardassians, it's ridiculous. And it's just further deepens the schism of how just truly horrible Cardassian society is in general.
Well, and you see how fascism works in that sense. I mean, because they really are showing how a fascist state can keep people in line, where it is, we will give you this form of entertainment as long as you stay in line. And everyone, I mean, the Cardassians have to know deep down, you can be pulled away at any point and be taken for a crime, regardless of whether or not you committed it, and you will be put up for judgment. And there is no, there is nothing that's going to stop them at that point. Like, once you're taken, and that is the end of the line. So
taken.
Right. And so they do all of this stuff, and they have all of these procedures, not only just to show, the greatness of the state, but also to be like, this is what the state will do if you try to step out of line, because it comes down to the fact that, like, they obviously knew that O'Brien didn't do any of this stuff, but what they were really charging him for was they were pissed that he was bad talking Cardassians in a public setting.
Exactly correct. So yeah, this is but again, poor O'Brien. You find out the Cardassian documentation process. So they strip you down naked, which I guess we saw that with Picard in the Chain of Command, where he was tortured by that dude. There are five lights, that guy. So Cardassians are totally cool with nudity. I get other people's nudity, but yeah, they slap you down. They put you in a chair. They painfully scan your eyeball. They take a piece of your hair, and then they pull out a tooth.
Yep,
this
when
is
your first molars.
Yeah, but they do that to everybody. That's like, oh, you've got your first molar and you're, 13 years old. Yoink! Yeah, because it's got to go, and it goes in a little 2-piece storage container, hair on the left, tooth on the right, and it gets filed because the Cardassians are bitch cakes about record keeping. They love having records of every little thing, and you see that in bits and pieces as the series goes on. But yeah, good stuff. The Enterprise gets a name drop in this episode, and this was just after the series finale. All Good Things was like 2 weeks before this, so that was kind of cool. And there's actually a very symbolic piece of the Enterprise in this last episode of the season. I think this one's you, so go for it.
Yes. All right. The Jem'Hadar, written or directed by Kim Friedman and written by Ira Stephen Bear, aired June 12th of 1994. Sisko, Jake, Nog, and Quark go camping on a Gamma Quadrant world. Sisko and Quark are captured by mysterious soldiers called the Jem'Hadar and meet a force, the Dominion, to rival the Federation.
Oh,
we finally get our Dominion drop, which was great.
Yes.
I did find the weirdness with Quark, where he was like, we're better than humans, and we're, where he's like complaining the entire time. And I'm like, I don't know where he was exactly supposed to fit into this episode and what line they were trying to follow with him, but everything else I absolutely loved.
Right, yeah. Quark is, is like, we've not had genocide in concentration camps. I'm like, you have a society that is completely based on capitalism that completely makes women beyond a second-class citizen that you keep them naked and
literally, you're not allowed to leave the house or wear clothes. That is slavery.
So yeah, I don't know. I think you picked quite a hill to die on here, but yeah, you're right. It's very much kind of a throwaway, and I guess potentially they're trying to create some kind of contrast within Sisko, like, well, I'm Federation and we believe in everybody, but we don't like Ferengi. It could be you're just an asshole, Quark. I mean,
like, that's also, I'm like, because I love Nog and I love Nog's uncle or Nog's Rom. Yeah, both of those guys are great. I think that their mom is awesome.
Moogie, absolutely.
Yeah, Moogie's fantastic. I'm like, Quark, I think you're just kind of a dick.
Right, exactly. So it's like someone who said, oh, you're racist against, I've had someone say that to me once or twice.
Yes.
Who's, oh, you're racist against blah, blah. I'm thinking, I'm not. You're an asshole, and I'm going to treat you the way you treat me.
It kind of felt like a lot of the conservative extremist arguments of like,
Right.
well, if you're being intolerant of me, and I'm like, no, you're homophobic. I don't have to put up with that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you can draw boundaries against toxic people.
Right.
That's the way the world actually works. So this was, I mean, this was a landmark episode. It really created a departure from the run up, which again,
Mhm.
and we'll do a little series, rated from 9 to 10 when we're rated out of 10 when we're done here. But it gave us, we had a pretty weak sauce first season, which is kind of typical of Star Trek
Mhm.
of the classic series. We had a lot in we've had a lot of bright spots that you and I have talked about in the last several months in this second season.
Oh yeah.
With high spots and low spots and really high spots and super great. But this says, you know what? We had the Borg. The Borg came along. They were a big threat in TNG, but they were defeated and they disappeared. Now we've got the Dominion. They're not weird robot people that are just going to go away.
Yeah.
They're not. They're far, far away. But you know what? They have access to us, and we still really don't know. We don't know who the founders are. We think we know who the founders are. They give us a little tease with Eris, that actress. I think her name is Molly Hagan. And there was a show. You want to talk about a deep dive? I mentioned before that when I was growing up, my mom worked at Fox 17, the local Fox station here. And so we always had Fox on in the house as a matter of course. There was a show in the early 90s called Herman's Head. And I would be stunned if you ever heard of it. But it was a guy, and there were 4 actors that played the various states of his emotion. And Molly Hagan played his love or his affection or his warmth. It was kind of like that. What the hell was that Pixar movie?
Oh, now I can see it in my head.
Pluck it out. Anyway, it was that movie, and that I'm sure not directly inspired that. It was a sitcom, and he was an adult guy trying to find his way through life. But anyway, Molly Hagan was the voice of his love or whatever. So yeah, this is the kind of shit you get talking to me. Lots in my head. But you thought, yeah, Inside Out. Thank you. So you think, she's a founder, but it turns out really later on. I'm not going to say. You'll learn about it next February when we come back for the 2-part kickoff. But
spoilers from 1994.
Yeah, spoilers from 1994 projected into 2023 when we will get back to this. But the not so subtle TNG is over. Forget about it. Is that when our gang we have 2 of the 3 runabouts because Cisco and his crew have the third one. Our 2 runabouts, which is dumb if you think about it, because it's those 2 runabouts, and then the ship that goes to help them is a Galaxy-class ship. It's the same as the Enterprise D. So it doesn't make sense that those 2 runabouts were flying along, but there weren't a bunch of other runabouts and shuttlecraft that came from the Odyssey, which is the name of the ship. So they have this pitch battle with a couple of different Jem'Hadar fighters, one of which does a suicide run into the Odyssey, destroying both ships. So it's like, you like TNG, fuck you, TNG is over. We just blew up the Enterprise. I mean, even when the Enterprise D crashes in Star Trek Generations, which came out the holiday season of 1994, so 6 months after this, I mean, half of the Enterprise blew up, but the other half of it crashed, and this just kaboom!
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone.
They at least had said that, we're going to offload non-essential personnel before we go. So it wasn't that a whole 1,000 people died, but probably at least 300 or 400 people died in that explosion. So, but yeah, I thought that was really heavy-handed. Like, you like TNG? It's like the stepdad. Well, I'm your dad now. Deep Space Nine is your dad now.
I mean, in all fairness, I didn't know that was the week after TNG ended. So I was just like, wow, them Jem'Hadar, they are crazy.
Right, exactly. I mean, it only gets, crazier. Seasons 3, 4, and then 5 are all this Cold War with the Dominion. Okay.
Yes.
You'll see
fantastic.
Yeah. The Klingons get involved in a way. The Romulans get involved in a way. The Cardassians are involved. So that's all swirling around. And it's not till the end of season 5 that open hostilities begin. So yeah, we have 3 seasons of this cat and mouse, like doot, 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 doot. There's so many great episodes. God, I could create a list of great Dominion episodes in seasons 3, 4, and 5 that would really have you hustling to watch, try to, like, if you took it as a point of like, I'm just an individual trying to piece this together, not knowing what the big picture is in seasons 6 and 7, it would be, I remember watching it for the first time. I was in college because it was right after this that I went to college, and then the rest of DS9 ended at almost the exact time that I graduated from college. So it was on for another 5 years. So that's really weird to me, that the parallels, because TNG, beginning of middle school, end of high school, this was my senior year of high school through the end of college.
Yeah.
It's just really weird to me. Oh my gosh. Oh, and then Voyager ended. Well, yeah. Then there's less exciting parallels. But anyway, okay. So 1 to 10, season 2. Favorite episode, least favorite episode.
Well, now I'm gonna have to go back and think about all of the episodes.
Okay,
I would rate it probably like a 7. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's because it is very strong. I mean, it's not like my favorite. I think that it does get a little bit stronger in the later episodes or later seasons. But I'm saying it's a 7. Like, I think it ended on a really solid note. There was a cliffhanger, but not like a crazy cliffhanger, like Picard and the Borg type level
Yes.
cliffhanger.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh my God, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, it definitely left you wanting more, but it felt very solid. Like they were definitely going somewhere with it. So I would say, yeah, solid 7 out of 10.
Gotcha. Okay, favorite episode. This is gonna be so tough.
All right, I'm gonna let you go first because I'm actually gonna go look up the episodes.
Oh my God!
You can't expect me to remember the episode names.
That's very true. But even if you just threw a plot line out, I can help you match it up. But it's a tie, almost a 3-way tie between the Circle 3-parter that kicked off the season,
Fair.
the Maquis, and then this Jem'Hadar episode, because they all, where the Circle didn't drive things as much as those other two did. It was the first 3-parter in Star Trek history, and it was a great, solid mystery that I think really gave great character development to more than one character, Kira in particular.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would also have to pull up a list to figure out what my least favorite is, but why don't you do your...
I know which one my favorite is. It's the one with the Ferengi who pretends to be a man.
Oh, okay, with Peck?
Pell.
Yes.
His name was Pell. Yes, I think that would probably be my favorite. And then I think maybe my least favorite was the one with the betting system. Whereas like the
Rivals with the Chris Sarandon was a guest star.
Yeah, like that one was just like, it was fun, but it was just like meh. Like,
yeah.
But also we're picking off of like a really solid list of shows, so it's not like we're TNG season 2 where I was like immediately knew I was like that was a horrible episode.
Oh, and anything and everything that went with Dr. Pulaski. I will probably have to agree with the Rivals episode being the weakest because it had no. There were no stakes, and at the end of it, it was there was I mean, there were a few that were like, the B story was like flat or whatever it is, but yeah, there was nothing in the
take it back. The weird one where Cisco fell in love with a gal in like 2 days, where she was projecting her. That was my least favorite episode because that one was just. I'm like, you've known her, you've met her twice. What are you doing?
I totally love her, or whatever. That's a solid comparison between the two. Yeah,
on the anniversary of my wife's death,
which the date was wrong. I'm gonna meet
some rando on
the promenade. Be like,
never
baby,
mind.
I love you. I haven't had sex in 3 years. I love you. Oh God. Oh my goodness. Oh well. With that, we're gonna bring this to a very tearful goodbye. Katie leaving us
temporary
until we come back. We'll be coming back around to Voyager. Yes. Season 2 in October. So, my goodness. Well, Katie, this has been spectacular. You have been. I was just telling somebody earlier today. Probably don't let anybody hear this, even though I'm saying it. Probably my favorite collaborator that I've worked with on the show.
Thank you.
You and I we have a connection. I think we work very well together. So, that being said. Peter is coming back on. Peter's a great guy. He's a little bit. He balances my high energy to a little bit of a lower.
I say maybe don't let Peter know. I mean,
I won't.
Putting this out, you should maybe cut that part where you said that I'm your favorite collaborator as you're getting Peter to come back on.
he's totally tied. No, Peter is great. I will give Peter credit because when this show kind of fell apart because my 2 previous hosts bounced on me, Peter was the guy who stepped in and helped me keep it going. So I'm eternally grateful. So, Katie, and I'm looking forward to your photography exhibition in a couple of weeks here. It's going to be awesome.
Super excited.
You got it. And with that, we will. I will toss you out for your last outro. So go for it.
Yes, you can always find us online at secretfriendsunite.com. And for all of our episodes, additional content, and bios of all of our SFU Network stars, you can hit us up at secretfriendsu at C3 or at the C3, and that's CEE3 spelled out, and at Q_T Geek on Twitter, and let us know what you're enjoying about the Trek world. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit us on TeePublic for all kinds of swag.
Totally awesome. And always for more information about Starfleet International, please visit Grand Petoskey on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. Katie, I will see you in the thereafter. Live long and prosper. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trekking.
And wherever you go boldly.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.